Hello everyone, it's Dove again. So this is part 2 of how I make my own homemade refried beans from pressure cooked beans that I make myself here. So make sure that you watch the first part if you are interested in knowing how to make beans in an Instant Pot pressure cooker. So this is what I have here. If you see in part 2, this made enough for 2 of these jars, and because I'm actually using up one of the jars, I only filled one of these, and so the second jar is actually right in here, and there's quite a bit of liquid in here, but that's okay because I like to cook these down with the spices and everything, and a lot of that liquid will evaporate, and there's the same amount of liquid in that jar, but by the time that cools down and goes in the refrigerator and congeals and everything, I will have to probably add a little bit of water to that to get it to this point, because I do actually like to cook these for about a half an hour with the spices and everything. I know that seems excessive and everything, but it's kind of like chili in that, you know, the longer you cook it, the better it becomes. And so I want to show you this Instant Pot. I can do pressure cooking and I can do all sorts of stuff. And so that means I can pretty much make everything right here in this pot. Hopefully I can get it close enough. And so now what I'm going to do, it's off right now, but I'm going to push sauté and it'll go for 30 minutes. You can change that. To longer than 30 minutes. Oh, see this mini one, it actually, it behaves differently than the big Instant Pot. So apparently I can't go any more than 30 minutes. And if you push the sauté button several times, it will go from less to normal to more. And I've learned from experience that normally when I'm just trying to simmer this, I need to have it on less. On the big Instant Pot, the dials are different, and so you do different things and you push different things. But for right now, I'm just going to go with less and 30 minutes. And if I need to go more than 30 minutes, I'll just turn it back on. And so what I add is basically, you know, I'm starting with my home canned peppers, and this is an 8-ounce jar, and I would usually just use a quarter of that for one of these jars of beans. Since I'm not gardening anymore, I'm gonna have to start buying these canned diced jalapenos. This is a 4-ounce can, and so I would just use half of this, and I would just need to save the other half for another time. And so I use a fork because these are canned in vinegar. I can them in vinegar and I don't want all of that on there. I do want some of the juice, but not all of it right now, because I have to make this last for 4 different batches, and I want to have juice in there for the other peppers. And so, yeah, it's about 2 ounces of diced jalapenos, or thereabouts. Yeah, a little bit more. And these diced jalapenos, they last forever in the refrigerator because they're canned with vinegar. And so I'll just put this back in the refrigerator. And if that's not high enough, you can just change your level. So I'm just gonna go to normal. I'm gonna bring it up to temperature quickly. I haven't cooked very much with my mini Instant Pot, but I cook a lot with the big Instant Pot. So I just have to learn the differences between the two. And so the spices I use are just like I said in the other video, I go from the cleanest herbs to the dirtiest, and I have 6 different herbs and spices that I use. And cilantro is the first one, and it's pretty much the cleanest, so that I don't have to keep going through and cleaning my measuring spoon. And this is one of the only recipes where I actually do measure out the spices, and to keep it easy and simple, and it's really good. I've learned it over the years. This is Mexican seasoning from Mountain Rose Herbs. So I just use a half teaspoon of each, and it seems to give it a really good flavor. I'm cheating. These are really cheating, like, because you can make these in all different ways. You can saute up some onion and peppers and then add the beans to it, but this is really super cheating because I was sick for a very long time. So there's the garlic, and so I had to make it super easy for myself. And honestly, these taste just as good, if not, they're just as good as beans made with fresh onion and fresh garlic and fresh pepper. It has a different flavor. I will say that. It's a different flavor. So that was onion granules. And then I've got cumin. And so I don't mind that the garlic and onion are going into the cumin. And I don't know if you can tell or not. There's a little bit of spice on there. And I just tap it off. Just like that. And I don't mind if the cumin gets contaminated with onion and garlic. And then the very last spice I use is chili powder. And I don't mind if the chili powder gets contaminated with cumin. And so I can keep progressing forth with my spices and not worry about any kind of contamination from jar to jar. And this chili powder that I have in this jar, this actually came from Kroger. I ran out of my Mountain Rose Herbs chili powder. The chili powder I get from Mountain Rose Herbs does not have any salt whatsoever, and I do prefer that, but I ran out before I needed it. I needed it, and Mountain Rose Herbs is kind of slow on their shipping, and so I had to go to Kroger and get this. And this chili powder actually has salt in it. And so in this instance, because this already has salt in it, I'm not going to add any extra salt right now. But normally, if I was using Mountain Rose Herbs chili powder, I would add a little bit of pink Himalayan salt at this point, because it just has the salt from the chicken bouillon, the chicken base that I added when I was actually pressure cooking the beans. And so that's the only salt that was in there. And so normally I would use this pink salt here. And I mean, I'll just show you just for demonstration purposes. And I would just grate that in there. I don't need very much though, so I'm not going to add any more. And so now it's simmering away, and I'm probably going to have to turn that down a little bit or it will start sticking. And so I'm just going to keep stirring it every, 3 or 4, 5 minutes or so. And I'm going to let all that liquid evaporate, and all those spices and herbs will just get concentrated down into the beans, and it makes for really, really super yummy refried beans. Now normally refried beans, they actually take the beans and fry them back in some kind of fat, either lard or some kind of oil, but I don't find that to be necessary. That's actually a pain in the butt to me, and it would create even more work, and so I don't do that. I don't refry them in beans or in oil. I just cook them down with the spices, and then I smash them with my little immersion blender, and I'm done with it. And this will usually take about 25 to 30 minutes on low. I'm gonna have to turn that down right now because it's on medium. See how much it's bubbling? Look how much liquid is there. That's way too much liquid right now. But I like to mingle the flavors for as long as I can, so I don't mind having all that liquid on there. And so I'm gonna turn this down. Sorry, I keep jostling you around with the camera. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that down to less. So we're on the very lowest setting on sauté. And I'm just gonna let that bubble away for about 30 minutes, or however long is left. I think it said 24 minutes is left. And I'll just keep stirring every few minutes so that it's not sticking to the bottom. So I will get back to you when it's done. Hold on. Okay, so it has actually only been about 10 minutes. I'm still practicing on my little mini Instant Pot, so, you know, I'm not ever quite sure how long it's going to take, but I wanted to show you what it looks like when you need to stir. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there is a skim right there. Can you see that? When it forms that skim right there, that's when you know you need to stir. And look, listen. You can hear me scraping up. That's why you need one of these spatulas, so that you can scrape the bottom. But if you can see, most of that liquid has cooked off. And that's about right, because once these beans start to cool, they're going to thicken up. And so you don't want to cook all the liquid off of them. That's about right there. It's pretty thick. And at this point, you know, I used to almost always just smash them right away with my immersion blender. But I have found that these beans right here, as they are quite versatile. And so I don't actually smash them right away anymore. I make a lot of different Tex-Mex foods. I'm just gonna push cancel here, and it goes to off. And so because I make so many different dishes that require beans, what I find myself doing nowadays is just taking this pot of beans and putting it into a Pyrex bowl and leaving them whole, because sometimes I want to have these beans whole, and sometimes I want them smashed like the traditional refried beans. And so if I want them smashed, then I will do it at that time when I want that to happen. Because otherwise, these beans are useful for burritos. Right now I can make bean and cheese burritos, and my son actually prefers the beans to be whole. And sometimes I make taco salads where you bake the tortilla shell in a form, and you can put your ingredients down into that after it's baked, and we like the beans to be whole for that purpose. But you know, sometimes when I'm just making a quesadilla or the taco pizza that I like to make, I need them to be smashed. And so I will take my immersion blender here. This is a 2-piece Cuisinart. There's a bunch of different brands. It doesn't want to lock in. Oh yeah, that's how it locks in. Sorry. The other one I have is different than this one. I have a KitchenAid immersion blender, and it locks into place differently. And so if I wanted this whole pot to be refried beans, I'm done with this. I've only got one outlet over here, so I can unplug this and plug in my immersion blender. And I think I'm just going to turn this whole pot into refried beans. Refried, quote unquote, just so you can understand how that happens and see how that happens. And so this is going to be a little bit loud. Hopefully not too bad. And I just stick that down into the pot of beans and then start pulsing it. And I do not pulse them all the way. I don't make it perfectly smooth. Like if you open a can of refried beans, most of them are going to be perfectly smooth. And I don't do that. I just kind of go part way with it. And then I try to scrape all that off of the beater thing here. And when you do the inside, you have to be careful because you can cut your spatula if you're not careful. And I just try to get as much of that out of the immersion blender as I can so I'm not wasting anything. And again, these will thicken up quite a bit, and you may have to add water back to them, and that's okay. You just get it the consistency to where it's like spreadable, you know. Because if you're making these for quesadillas or taco pizzas or anything like that, you want to be able to spread it easily. Let me see if I can show you. So that's about the consistency that I get. But these are really hot right now, and it's going to cool down. So I am going to pretty much guarantee that once these, you know, you store them in the refrigerator and you bring it back out to use it again, you're going to have to add a little bit of water to it. Because that's just the nature of beans. They thicken up quite a bit. If you were serving this fresh right now, it would be perfect right now. You could just, you know, if you were having a dinner where you had rice and beans on the side or whatever, that would be perfect to put on the plate. And it would thicken as it cools up or cools down on the plate. So that's it. That's how I make my refried beans. They're not really fried, but you know, whatever. I'm cheating. I'm being lazy. And they're good. I can't tell you how good these are. Everybody in my family loves to walk in when I'm making these because they smell very, very good. Alright guys, that's it. My battery's getting ready to die. That's how I make homemade refried beans using pressure cooked beans. Alright, talk to you later. Bye.